I have so many conversations with myself that I don't usually feel confident having in social setups. But I am pretty sure I am not alone. Join me on this podcast as I have these conversations unapologetically loud. My name is June Robinson, and welcome to another episode of Cut the Monologue. Hello, hi, tribe. Do I refer to you as my tribe at this point? I don't know. I think I'll maybe look for a cute name to call you people. I'm so sorry for that. Anyway, how you been? How has the rest of your month, how has it been? We are almost winding up the month, and that also means we are winding up my series talking about grief. And I am actually super excited to mark the end of this, just because I feel like it has helped me to some extent unravel some of the things that maybe I have kept hidden, or some of the things that I had masked that I wasn't aware that I had. And I'm super glad about that. I hope we all actually enjoyed the series, and thank you for the comments that you left behind on the episodes. It really helps me make the episodes even better. So on today's episode, I want to talk about lessons from my father, the things that I was able to pick from his life that I felt like are meaningful to me, and also the things that I saw happening in his life that I was like, no, this is definitely something to note down as something that should not happen to me. So the significance of me talking about this is because I loved my dad. My dad was, and he still actually is, a very pivotal part of my life. I learned a lot from him. I saw him do so many great things. He was respected in the community. And this to me is just a way of opening him up to you and giving you some form of droplet into the amazing man that he was. So my father, known as Robinson Odhiambo Nyagoa, and that's where I get my two surnames, Robinson Odhiambo, from. He was a firm man, yet loving and educational and just significant in so many ways. My dad was a firm believer in academics. That I can tell you for sure, for a fact. He was a firm believer of academics. He strongly emphasized on the need to always have your education set right. So that's just a segment. I remember, this is always a memory that I have. There was this time where we had a help living with us. Majority of our helps in my childhood used to live with us. And she had fallen sick, and my dad had taken her to hospital. So we did not have this knowledge. But I remember my dad and, our help used to live with us with her child. And I remember my dad came to school and we were just waiting for lunch, because she used to bring lunch to us. So we were just waiting for lunch, and then we see our dad's car. That's me and my brother. I see my dad's car, and it's just, slowly maneuvering through the road. And I was like, what? And he had bought us chips. When I was a kid, chips was everything. I feel like even kids nowadays, they love chips. Like, there's just something about being a kid and chips that is everything, aka French fries. And I hold that memory so dear. I hold it so dear to me. Okay. And this other time, I was now going to finish my Form 4, and we were just sitting down with him, and that's when he was like, where do you really see yourself falling in terms of career wise, in just based on your academic ability? And I was like, I am sure I'm going to fall in the medical field. I know it will not be a surgeon or things like that, but I know I'm probably going to fall in the pediatric side of medicine because I really love kids. And it was so, it was so nice because I was sure of that but then one of the conversations that we were having during that was you need to be aware of the key subjects that they're looking at and make sure you qualify in those subjects. And once you qualify, nothing is going to hinder you from becoming what you want. And that bit of once you qualify for something, nothing will ever hinder you from getting it. You may delay, you may take a detour here and there, but when you qualify for something, it's always going to be yours. And that is, I hold that so, so dear. I have so many memories of, just these amazing anecdotes that my dad gave me. And he made me feel so comfortable with talking to him about the different aspects of my life. I never talked to him about the boyfriends I had in my teen years. I not that he wouldn't have listened, but that it would have been somehow awkward. And in my head, it would have been awkward. Maybe he would have appreciated that, but in my head, it would have been awkward. But I remember he made it possible for me to talk to him about the different things that happen in my life. And, one of the many significant things was he was a church elder. At home, we are Seventh-day Adventists. So he was a staunch Adventist and he was a church elder. And even in his staunchness to his belief and to his religion, he still gave us as his children, and all of us, but now I want to focus on me, he still gave us the freedom to walk our own paths and find our own connection with God. In his house, you would go to church. If he's going to church, you're going to church. No one is being left behind. But it was more so in the aspect that you're under my roof, you do as I do. When you will be under your roof, you'll do as you do. So, and he never judged us, because I know my sister moved from the Seventh-day Adventist church to Pentecostal church. I'm sorry about that plane. And he didn't have a meltdown about it. He at first had a hard time understanding why, but he was like, if that is where you feel you are connected to God, then I will not stop you. If that is where you feel that you are at peace with God, I will not stop you. That's who you are. That's what you've found. All I am thankful for is that you are still with Christ. And that is so significant of who my dad was. He raised us and he raised me to be an independent thinker, to not have to rely on what other people are doing. He made me be someone who, whatever decision I make, I made it because I wanted to and not because I have been influenced by anybody. And this moved itself. And I want to say something. I started making my nails like about a year ago. And I'm not shaming, people who make nails or anything. I'm just making this significant to what my dad, to the teachings that I got from my dad, that if you want to do something, do it because you want to do it and not because people around you are doing it or because people around you have influenced you to do it. So he made me to be that independent of a thinker. And I'm glad for that, because I have been in situations where I see people, or I am surrounded by people who are doing things not because they want to, But because they're being influenced by external forces, then later on they sit down and they're like, why was I doing that? So I am truly grateful about that, you know. Being that, because my dad is old school, he was born in 1952. And he was among the first people who were moving out of, their rural places, the rural urban migration that we have all learned and we are still witnessing till today, from his community or from, our home area, who moved from that to come to Nairobi with the belief and the hope that they are going to make it big. And so he moved, and he came to Nairobi and he started as a clerk. At some point, he became, the Secretary General to a famous football team. I don't feel like I want to mention that. A famous football team. It's fairly famous with the people of my region. So he was a Secretary General to that, and he persevered. There was this time, and he was just giving me a story around his work, because he was involved with a lot of mining. So he had gone to Tanzania. This is way back when he had just started his father was still alive, so this was way back. And because my grandfather, the dad to my father, I think he passed away somewhere in 87 or 85, somewhere around that period. I cannot remember exactly, but it was somewhere around that period. And he had gone to Tanzania. So they were using a motorbike because they were going somewhere that didn't have roads. It was hilly, so many valleys, etc. So they had a motorbike and they used that. But then they got to a point where the motorbike, because he was with his partner. So if I say they, I mean him and his partner. And they got to a point where they could not continue with the motorbike. They had to continue on foot. So they packed the motorbikes, went with the keys, and, proceeded. So in the evening, after the work of the day and, just doing a site tour and identifying, just mining things, when they come back to where they left their motorbikes, the community around, the place they were had cut out the tires and had used them to make shoes. When he was telling this story, it was so funny because my dad is a good storyteller and I laughed so hard. And he was like, now, the only other alternative that they had was to carry these motorbikes because they still needed the motorbikes. And the people around there were looking at them like, why are you questioning us for using a readily available resource in solving our problems? And they're the local communities. Of course, my dad, he being the understanding person, doesn't throw a fit, doesn't get angry, doesn't start shouting. He's just like, you know what? We just have to carry these motorbikes. So they start the journey of going back while carrying the motorbikes. And we know how heavy motorbikes are. And just that was one of the many stories of just the different countries he has visited and the different experiences and the different hardships that he faced. And that showed me that no matter what life throws you, if you have a vision of what you want to achieve, you will achieve it. You have to persevere. But in as much as you are persevering, you also have to push so that you don't waste your time persevering instead of pushing. So you have to know how to push and how to persevere. And these were just some of the stories, And by him moving from home to come to Nairobi, during that time, this was before the internet, before mobile phones, and moving out of home and coming to a new land, and you understand if you're coming from your home village, of course, you're probably not conversant with other languages, or you may be conversant, but not to a level where you are fluent or to a level where you can be, termed as a native. Those comes with its challenges, but he was able to persevere through that. He was able to make decisions that had an influence on his later life. I draw a lot of inspiration from that because I look at what he built from that, what he was able to provide me from his perseverance, from his hard work, from his decision-making skills. And I am like, he has exposed me to a lot of greatness that I cannot allow myself to settle for mediocrity. Not because I want to, but because I have someone of great influence, someone who is my role model, show me that it is possible. And if it was possible during his time, it will be possible during my time. Okay. He was also a very resilient guy. His last trip was in Sierra Leone. And during his last trip, because he was in partnership, his partner died. So, because he was in Sierra Leone for 4 years, and his partner died, I think, around the second year of him being there. So when his partner died, there was, just a lot of back and forth between his partner's family on, the shares of his company and all that. So that created a moment of instability, and my dad ended up, being kicked out of the company for a while and losing finances and things like that. And this was in a foreign country because it's all back in Sierra Leone. Of course, his way of communication, even his articulation of words is different. It already identifies him as a foreigner, but he stuck through that. And it was a long 1 year of not being in a stable situation with his work. But he persevered. He was resilient in that face of adversity. And, he made lemonade out of lemons. And that is just typical of my father. My father always made lemonade out of the lemons that life threw at him. And he would make these lemons seem like the most beautiful thing that can happen, because he always said the lemons, they come with tears, they come with pain, but the lessons that these lemons bring are so worth it. They are worth every tear, they are worth every pain. And that is not to glorify, like pain and going through struggle, but it's also not to shame it. And that's just how he is. And to me, I think that's what has made me sane even after campus, because till date, I have never gotten a job that is matching whatever I studied. I am doing a job that not in a million years would I have thought of doing it. But he taught me to make lemons out of lemonade and work with what life has given you and ensure that you build from that and make it great. That is who he was. He was an excellent communicator, because even in his travels, especially there was this time he had gone to Congo, and he would tell us he would have to climb up trees in order to get network and just send emails, because, during those times it was more email communication, because, it's when technology had started like coming up. I don't know if the stories were somehow fabricated. I don't know, but that's what he said. That's what he said. And I am glad of the time I had with my dad. I am glad. Do I wish it was longer? Of course. Like, my dad was the man. But he was amazing. He raised me to be sufficient. He gave me enough life lessons on patience, on being truthful, being kind with your words, even when you're truthful. And those are things that I hold dear. And looking at the legacy that he left behind, those are very huge shoes to fill. They are. He was kind, he was forgiving. To me, forgiving doesn't come as easy as it did to him. Doesn't come as easy as it did to him. And I do work on it. But in all that, I saw how people also changed on him, especially when life took a turn, At some point, life took a turn on my dad's lifestyle, and just, the decisions that he made came back to, I don't want to say eat him up, but that's what I guess it is, for lack of a better word. And you get to see family and you get to see your friends in a different light. And you get to understand who you want in your close circle and who you do not want in your close circle. And I am grateful for that. I sometimes wish that, he probably should have made different decisions, especially in terms of helping others, because my dad was a welcoming person. He welcomed people. If you didn't have anything and he had 100, he would split it. If he didn't have anything and whatever he had was not even enough for him, he would split it. That's who my father was. And in as much as I hate it, because by seeing him do that and seeing how people turned on him, I developed a sense of selfishness. To some extent, I am selfish with my own things. And I would wish that maybe he made different decisions, but I wouldn't change that. I don't hate that for him, because that was his life. That was his way of living. That was his way of being happy. And I cannot crucify him for his life, because he enjoyed it. He loved it. He loved helping people. That's my dad. And I am super, super glad that he is the one who was my dad. He was present. He was good in communicating. He valued education and made sure that I went to some of the best schools. And made sure that I stayed in school and I studied and I was not chased away and things like that. And I am glad. He exposed me to so much in life. He taught me so many things about, just how I can safeguard myself, things to watch out. And I am glad. I am glad on all that, because they influence who I am right now. The lessons that I received from him influence how I interact with people. The things that I saw my dad do that I would definitely borrow influence how I interact with people. The things that I saw my dad do that are a definite no to me influence who I am today. And I am grateful for that. I am. And he will forever be my personal person. He will. And I love him from that. And with that, we come to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for enjoying the series. Thank you for the comments you've left behind. And looking forward to meeting with you on the upcoming episodes. That's it for this episode of Cut the Monologue. Be sure to follow us on our social media platforms at Cut the Monologue. That is Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. And also follow us on all streaming platforms and turn your notifications on to always get notified whenever we drop an episode. Until the next episode, goodbye for now.